What you
I
eating
didn't
right
get to
there?
finish yogurt, Siggy's yogurt.
I already hit
I had
record.
an interview
So,
right now. Oh my gosh.
oh, and then one other thing, we may be blurry on each other's ends, but it all turns out fine at the end. Just so you know.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was going to say you're a little blurry, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Uh, the first episode of season 2, and we have a very special guest here today. This is Angie Aldape, or Angelica. Don't
Yes.
call her that. Call her Angie.
Angelica.
So, Angie, I know you well, probably too well. So, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you, what you do, where you're located, more about this delicious yogurt you were just finishing. Tell
Oh
us
my
everything.
goodness. I don't even know where to start. Let's see. How do I introduce myself? So, my name is Angie Aldape, and born and raised in Los Angeles, California, now living in the Seattle Pacific Northwest area, so Seattle, Washington. Currently working at Microsoft, and I'm managing probably one of the largest social media ecosystems, I think, in the world for commercial cloud, which has been a bit of a journey and an awesome one at that. And let's see, I miss home. I've been in the Seattle area for about 4 years now, a little over 4 years. And yeah, I don't know. I think that covers it.
Yeah. So, let me go back, I believe now 14 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
My first job in LA, I walk in the door and there is this sun shining, smiley face ready to greet me, organized everything by color. um, and completely put together, way more put together than I was at that time. And that was the start of a friendship, a health journey. We can talk more about our sort of fun trips that we do, and a lot of fun. So first things first, though, you know, you've lived in Seattle now for 4-ish years. You lived in LA quite a bit longer. What city is healthier?
Oh my gosh. I was thinking about this question
Yeah.
because I know you sent it yesterday, but I will say I don't know. It's like I think in what respect, right? Like I will say if we talk about like lifestyles, I
Mhm.
would say maybe my lifestyle in Seattle is probably a lot healthier
Mhm.
than it was back in Los Angeles because I think there's just an abundance of options in Los Angeles. Restaurants, bars, like there's just so much like things to do there. It's not really like that here. Maybe it's just where I currently live right now because it's a little bit like on the top of a hill and like in the woods. So options are minimal. I will say, I think when I was in Los Angeles, like we would run a lot, right? So I was always
Mhm.
running and exercising. It was very much top of mind. Now I'm not, I still do that, but not as probably as much as before. The air quality in the Pacific Northwest is a lot better. There's a lot more greenery and, it's amazing versus Los Angeles. But I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say Los Angeles just because it's my hometown and I love it and I miss it so much, even though there's more options. But I don't
Yeah.
know. That answers your question.
No, it does, because I think there's an assumption that Los Angeles, everyone's healthy and everyone is just so on it. But there's a little bit of fake wellness, I feel, of
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go to Erewhon and have the Haley Bieber smoothie and say I did that and then go to In and Out. Although I don't think In and Out's that bad for you. But it's this weird sort of balance. But then when you go, even when you land in the what is it called, SeaTac, right? The airport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, SeaTac.
You see people in hiking gear and like they like look like they stepped out of like an REI catalog, and it's just sort of like the lifestyle to like to move and to do that. So I mean, you've lived there longer. I visited. So
Yeah.
to me, like the impression of Seattle is like, okay, this is like our lifestyle that we do. And LA, it's like a little bit more showy. But I feel like also people who live in LA like have like maybe a career they have to look a certain way for, or, so it just becomes
Yeah.
ingrained. But
Yeah,
we,
I agree. I think in Los Angeles, it's definitely maybe more optics
hmm
versus up here, it's more like it's less about that and more about kind of what works for you. And it is what it is, right? People are just kind of like, this is me, take it or leave it.
yeah.
Versus in LA, I do remember just being so aware of like my appearance, what I was wearing, what I was driving, and it was so much pressure. I
hmm
think that LA kind of puts, and I don't know if it's just the city, the people. I don't really know what that is, but there's just so much pressure all the time to look or feel and appear as though, which is like, I think it's exhausting.
Oh, totally. Totally. I mean, I rolled up at preschool drop off with like a Kia SUV this morning, and everyone
Love
else
it.
had like, their pick a luxury car brand, you got it. And I
Yeah.
was just like, whatever, this is it. This is
Yeah.
it. You got me. This is it. But we just came back from a trip from New York, which I told you I felt like pretty puffy and, needed to get some workouts in. But it's interesting, like the culture there, you'd see people in their 30s, like with like a sort of like a perma frown on their faces. And I forget how much harder New York is
Yeah.
on you, especially like this time of year. But we didn't like go like ham on like the eating and drinking. We really didn't go. We had some pizza and pasta, all the bagels, all the things you have when you're there. But it felt so much different. And I was like, I need a salad. Like, I need something green. I'm like,
Yes.
what is like the last time I said? I'm like, I've been in California a long time, or even the West Coast. It's just like, it sort of like shifts your viewpoint of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like also healthy, I think now I view as like I define healthy so differently now. Like as
Mhm.
before it was like, appearance and or working out and eating right versus now there's like that added kind of layer of like mental health. Like part of
Mhm.
me is like if I'm not feeling good, I'm not health. Like I'm it's like a it's all the things and that, right? And
Yeah.
so I think I just view it a little differently now.
For sure. For sure. And I mean, like you mentioned, you have like work for one of the biggest companies in the world and one of the most probably demanding companies in the world,
Yeah.
especially the past couple of years. Like everyone needs Microsoft. Something Microsoft offers, everyone in the world needs it. So, how do you face burnout in your career, and like what do you do to sort of solve that and take care of your mental health?
Yeah. Gosh, it's definitely been like so top of mind, especially like I would say even like just this last year because it's something that and and you know this, I've shared this with you, something that I struggled with. It's hard, right? Like burnout is real and it's definitely something that I am super mindful and aware of when I am in those kind of moments, right? Like I always I don't know if you're familiar with like the emotional, I think it's called the cycle of emotion. So it's like, for me, it's very much of like, okay, what stage am I in? Because there's 5 stages to it. The first stage is like optimism. You're super excited. You're like, this is going to be great. And then stage 2 is like, wait a minute, it's not as great as I thought it would be. What's going on here? And stage 3, which is where I am most times, it's the valley of despair where you're like, this really sucks. I should quit. And then 4 is like, wait a minute, okay, that's not that bad. I was able to get past the worst. And stage 5 is like, wow, I learned so much and I'm so glad I went through that. Right. And that happens like often and it's exhausting. And I think that when we're going through that, and I think depending on how frequent that happens, that's super exhausting. And depending on how, like, right, because then if it happens in pockets, right, it's not as exhausting. And so I think I would say probably right after COVID and maybe even just moving into this role, it was happening very frequently.
Mhm.
Um, and it's hard. Like I will say a lot of times, and something I tell myself and I tell my team now is like, you know, depending on whatever company you work for, right? It will take as much as you give. And also, there are times too where it's like, and I tell my team this, I said this the other day, I was like, if you give somebody your hand, they're going to take your arm. So we have to be mindful of like practicing a thoughtful no. And somebody shared this thoughtful no concept with me, I would say maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like, wow, we can say no, we can push back. And I think learning how to do that, because I think for me, like in the world that we come from is very agency world. It was
Mhm.
very like yes, yes, yes all the time. And now being on the client side, I can say no. And I can say no, to my peers, to leadership, and kind of be able to build those boundaries. And I'm still, right, even my role now, I'm still learning that. And it's hard, but it's definitely something that's allowed me to, I think, be successful in my role and with my team. And us practicing it often with each other, I think is important too.
Yeah, for sure. I can't tell you the amount of women who come to me to work with me of like they are past the stage. Like they're like had it up to here and here and here. And we kind of like get into a conversation about, what's been going on and what's, work, home life, all that. And most of the time, it's the lack of boundaries at work because they're so afraid to say no or to set up like those like fine lines of like,
Mhm.
this is when you can reach me, this is when you can't reach me. And like the one thing I stress over and over is like the job is paying you to work the hours outlined. And yes, like
Right.
there's some like gray area there, but they're not paying you to worry about the job outside of it. They're not paying you to like spend your Saturday afternoon freaking out about what's happening on Monday, because I think that, what you're saying and what you're guiding your team is so smart because we often cannot say no because we're worried about the consequences instead of
Yeah.
like being strong and saying no because of this or because of that. And then you gain a lot more respect when you do say no and for a
Yeah.
valid reason.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember it was a mutual friend of ours. I think it was Doug actually had recommended a book. I think it was Essentialism. And I
Mhm.
remember reading that book a few years ago. And even just the first chapter, like I have it on Audible and I listen to it when I'm in these like burnout moments.
Mhm.
First chapter is like, so I'm like, yes, okay. It's like saying no, because I think what the basically the first chapter I remember it saying, it's just like, if you don't respect your time, how do you expect others to? And I think that just like resonated with me so much. And I think that that helped me say no. And then I think I throw in the thoughtful as a part of it, because to your point, a lot of times as females, right? Like they're like, oh, she's being combative or she's being this or she's being that. And it's like really kind of spinning it and being thoughtful about it.
Mhm.
Like no, I can't get to that right now or next week or in 2 weeks, but let me fit it in when I can, right? So it's like
Mhm.
being thoughtful about it. It's not necessarily drawing the line and saying absolutely not,
Right.
but saying not right now and not next week and not in 2 weeks, but maybe I can fit it into the plan. And so like let's work towards that. And so I think when you're thoughtful about the approach and your response, I think it's received better, and they respect your time and your space and your boundaries. So it's really about that. And trust me, it's been a journey, but
Yeah.
it's been great.
Yeah, and it's really freeing too once you
Yes.
can be like, I don't have to respond to this right now. Or, I think with, some of our closest friends, it's like I can send a text message and then not respond for a couple of days, a week or something. And it doesn't mean anyone is mad or, like
Right.
forgot about you. Like if there's just this understanding of like, we are all busy and we will get back to each other and no worries. There's not this like sense of urgency or like false urgency that's created,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times we do create those false narratives in our
Hmm.
heads, right? Where we're like, oh, she's not responding, so she must be mad at me. No, she's probably just totally overwhelmed
Yeah.
and has maybe is like that text message is probably top of mind, right? Because a lot of times sometimes when we text, right, and I'm like
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, I haven't responded to Shannon, I haven't responded to her, and then the next day goes and I'm like, oh, I haven't responded to her, I need to respond to her. And it's like I'm like, I don't want her to think I'm not, and so it's like we create those narratives, and I think we need to stop that.
Yeah. 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 It's like everyone is busy and they're doing their things and like no one is forgotten about. Like, and that's, while we're never like the center of everyone's universe, like, the people closest to you are top of mind and you think of them every day for some reason. But you don't have to act on it all the time. And it's like
Yeah.
such a release to not do that. But yeah, I mean, I think that the other piece is like, you know, with having those boundaries and like having, you know, gaining the confidence also to set up those in your life, like you do take me time and you do travel and you do take days off. Like how how have you managed to do that and sort of like what do you do in those times to kind of recharge?
Yeah. Me time, I think I 100% prioritize that. And I think that we all should. I think sometimes it's viewed as being selfish, but I think for me, it's like I like to just get a 30-minute workout in, and I think it helps me just kind of like center myself, whether it's like a bike ride or a run or a walk, right? Like sometimes like we go for long walks, but just or even if it's like if I can find like more than 30 minutes, like an hour and a half, I'm like, okay, I want to go get a massage, right? I haven't gotten a massage in a really long time and I'm so excited because I have one coming up. And it's like that's my me time, and it's like that's doing something for myself because I deserve it and because I've worked so hard the last like whatever months, years, etc.
Mhm,
Right. And so it's like, just a little bit like it's a little reward for myself. And that's how I view it. And I think we need that, right? I think like it's a nice way to kind of like recharge our battery, like our
mhm,
personal battery, right? It's like when we unplug our phone, our phones are dying. It's like we immediately run to charge them, but we fail to kind of approach ourselves as individuals in that way.
mhm,
And so for me, that's how I see it. It's like, even if it's just, like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, just to be like, let me dedicate this time to me. I think that's definitely something I like to do and prioritize. And
mhm.
it could be done in a lot of different ways, right? It doesn't have to be a workout. It can be meditation. It could be sitting in a room quietly because, sometimes people have kids and they're just like, this is silence that I would like.
Lock myself in the bathroom. Could it also be going to a Korean spa in downtown LA for a body scrub?
Yes, which was an experience.
Let me just brief interlude so no one feels left out of an inside joke here. There are many awesome 24-hour Korean spas in downtown Los Angeles. And Angie and I decided one day to go to one without really no one like gave us a heads up about
Or like
what.
we didn't even do any research,
No.
right? Of like what to expect.
Yeah. I think it was like $10, $15 for like a day pass. And we're like, okay, cool. And we'll get like a body scrub. That sounds nice. So we show up and what we had to change into some like khaki uniform or was it a robe?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. It was like a little t-shirt and shorts. It was really, yeah, it was really fascinating.
And then you entered a room and then everyone was completely naked for the rest of the time, which we were also not prepared for. But we were truly not prepared for this body scrub where we were put in a room on these like rubber mats, right? And
Yeah,
they
there
just
was like these they look like massage tables, but the massage like the surface of the table was definitely like a type of plastic. Because I just remember holding on for dear life because I was just
buckets of
like moving
water,
around everywhere.
buckets of water being thrown at us. That was not relaxing, but that was an experience that I don't think either of us will ever forget.
I just kept looking at you and being like, is this happening? Is this really happening? It was such an experience. I will say though, it was totally incredible. And I
Mhm.
think my skin felt
Oh,
so soft and so incredible after. So
yeah,
highly
that's
recommend those scrubs. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just be prepared for what's going to go down. That's all. Um, but another thing that we try to do, although it's been quite some time, but I'm getting almost ready to do it again, is Angie and I would go on just weekends away, but we'd plan it to do like half marathons or yeah, or running races and, try to take those trips like to be with each other, but also to do something like really fun and like physically rewarding. Not for time because, we
No.
we do it for the fun, not for
Yeah.
the competition.
Yeah.
But that
I'm not trying to qualify for anything. I just want to
yeah,
get it done.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Get it done, maybe have a good brunch afterwards, all that. So that has been fun, which we gotta do again. But I mean, you've got a treadmill at home. I gotta run outside in this freezing 50-degree weather.
Do not talk to me about freezing, Shannon. I will send you videos of what our front yard looks like right now. It is covered in snow.
Do you think as a new homeowner, like distracting yourself with stuff to do at home, is that helpful for you at this point? Like is it relaxing or
Yes,
is it okay?
100%. I think it's a nice way. I'm on a computer all the time, like Monday through Friday, day, evening sometimes, because I have to catch up sometimes in the evenings. And I think just having something to do, like with my hands, that, can take me away from all the devices, I
Mhm,
think is so therapeutic.
mhm,
I was describing to Fadi, who's my boyfriend, I was like, I'm going to paint my office. And he's like, why don't you hire someone to do that? And I'm like, because I find it very therapeutic.
mhm,
And I did. I painted this little room that I'm in right now. And it was just so relaxing because it's just a different part of my brain that I'm using or I'm not using. And it's just like, you know, it was super awesome. And I think I love doing stuff like that. Like, even just sometimes, like, I don't know, it's like trimming the side tree, which we got these like big scissors and, it's like, I've never done
wonderful.
this before, but I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like yard work. Wow. Like who would have thought? And it's just a nice little escape.
That's good. Yeah, I have another audiobook for you that I'm reading right now. It's called The Comfort Crisis,
Okay.
and it's all about like most of us or a big percentage of the population has set their life up to be like problem free. And so then when something goes wrong, they freak out because they just haven't
Yeah.
built up the stamina to like handle stuff in their lives. But the other part of it is like recommendations of what you can do. And a lot of it is like big challenges, like us saying, like, hey, we're going to do this crazy half marathon in Mexico City where it's hilly
Yes.
and elevation,
Yeah.
like big things like that to challenge yourself, but then also things to like shift yourself because their theory is that the next generations and even our generation, there's like a lack of creativity, and that's like a huge problem. So they're like, do things like super different. Like we're all programmed to work at a computer. And that is satisfying, yes, but it's it's like this. You're just doing the typing and doing the sitting and doing like the video chatting all the time. It's not going to fulfill you in other ways. So they were literally, the book says, of like, you need to do things with your hands. You need to
Hmm.
paint, you need to cook, you need to, go hiking and like plant a garden outside, like all of these other things that like us as like cave people had to do to survive that we've all sort of like forgotten how to do, or we get too busy and like things get in the way and we're like, I am going to hire someone to paint my office. I'm not going to do it myself, but it's so much more rewarding and actually like
Yeah.
beneficial for you, like your future self, to actually like get in there and like do things with your hands.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I will say I agree, and I think that it's so interesting. So definitely send me the book because it's just awesome. And what's interesting is I remember a couple of years ago at work, so every year we have this month where we do like we raise funds at work. It's called the we call it the Give campaign. It's
Mhm.
October, and the entire company kind of rallies around it. And and a lot of times there's like these on-site events where we go like volunteer our time to specific organizations, and so we went and we did like a cleanup. It was
Mhm.
like a little beach cleanup, and it was awesome because as all of us, right? Like at that time, I was on the research team. Like we're walking, we were all done, and we had a blast.
Mhm.
And as we were walking to our cars, we were just like, "Gosh, like we need to do this more often." Because not only is it like good for the soul, right? It just you as an individual to get away from the device, but also your computer, your phone, etc. I call them the small, medium, large screens, and but also just like doing something together with someone, like with other people, I think it's so rewarding. And then for other people, right? Because at the end of the day, like that specific instance was we were doing something for an organization,
Mhm.
and so it was so nice to do that. And I think that it made me really think like I need to do more things with my hands because it's just a different side of the brain that we don't exercise all the time, right?
Mhm.
Because we're only using one part. And I think that one's so underserved. And a lot of times, to your point, like we just hire people to do the things for us, but they're
Mhm.
so rewarding for us individually. Like, I can't wait for the snow to melt so I can go rake all the leaves. Like, that was fun. Like,
Mhm.
before I was like, this is awesome. my back my back didn't like it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it was fun.
Yeah, exactly. And as I'm reading more into the book, I'm like, I get myself in trouble all the time because even when I cook, there'll be a screen there. I'll like put a recipe up on my computer or iPad or, whatever and have it there. And of course, like I can get text messages. I can play some music in the background and all this. And it was like, what if I just cook something I already know or have it written down? That way it's like a total departure from any sort of like thing that could distract me, and then I'm in the moment, and then it's there, and then it's a soothing activity versus like I got to get this done. So anyway, so I'm trying to figure out other ways of like how to really like do this method because I think it's so important to kind of like
Yeah.
step away. But I mentioned earlier that you have a treadmill and you've got a Peloton bike
Yes.
at home as well, and you hike. I'll try hiking with you again someday. I will.
I know we
Uh,
got to get you hiking. You got to come up here, and I want to take you on a hike. So funny
baby
that you
hike.
don't. It's hilarious that you don't like to hike.
I know, I know. But like, what are your other ways to get fit? I texted everybody. I texted Angie the other day asking if she gets notifications on her watch about my workouts because I get a notification every single time that Angie works out and I don't know how to change it. But even if she does like a stretching routine for 5 minutes, it's like, oh, Angie. And it's sort of like an inside joke at our house. Like, oh, what's this? Oh, no, no one's ringing the doorbell. It's Angie finished a workout. Uh, so so what's like your like sort of like workout routine like or things like do you do everything at home or do you go somewhere or do online stuff?
I used to go to like a gym. Like I used to have class pass. And,
Hmm.
I really loved like class workouts because
Yeah.
that's when I first moved up here to the PNW or PWN Pacific. No, PNW.
PNW, yeah, yeah.
I was like, how am I going to make friends up here? Right. And so I started going to like class workouts, which were awesome. And then obviously that quickly changed. And so I got a Peloton bike because it was all the rage. And I remember telling myself, I'm not going to get one. I love going to Soul Cycle and I love the class experience and all of that. But you know what? I think the weather here
Hmm.
doesn't make it easy for like, running, walking, etc.
Yeah.
And so we ordered a treadmill. It's a Peloton tread,
Mhm.
and I love it because I can just like hop on like throughout the day if I have like an hour during the work day, right? I can just like
Right.
pop, which I never do because I never have time during the day.
Right.
But I'm not also a morning person, as you know. So I've tried many times to get up early and get my workout in the morning, failed miserably. So I work out after work. As soon as I'm done, I like change and then I work out and then I get out and then, and then it's time for dinner. But yeah, like that's kind of what I've done
Mhm.
and I I've enjoyed it. And I will say like I do miss going to yoga classes. It's something that I would like to kind of introduce more to my routine because that was a nice little like midweek kind of like zen moment for
Yeah.
myself. I used to go to boxing, which I took you to a boxing class early on when I first moved here. And it was
So hard.
amazing because it's so incredible, just like visualizing whoever made you mad that day and just
Hmm.
punching the bag and just like getting the aggression out, which was incredible. So therapeutic. And so I haven't been to boxing in a while.
Yeah.
So I missed that and I loved that. That was really cool. But these days I'm just running and riding on the bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Which you do quite often, I must say. So do you think like working out gives you more energy, or is it like the food you eat or traveling? Like what kind of like brings you back to life?
It's a combination of all the things,
Mhm.
like I think that totally definitely when I don't work out, I feel super lethargic and just like slower with low energy. And so when I work out, I feel like it just like reignites me. A lot of it has to do with like, how I fuel my body and like I don't like to say diet because it's just, we all eat kind of different things and I do, indulge like I do eat, sweets and I do love, I drink wine and so I think it's just keeping it like a balance and know like okay, how do I feel my body today based on, how I indulged the day before. And
Mhm.
so it's a combination of all the things and sleep. I think for me, if I were to rank like sleep, diet, and exercise, I would put sleep at the top,
Yeah.
like number one, right? Like you really can't function without sleep. I would put food as number two,
Mhm.
and then I would put exercise as number three.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can't exercise if you are going on no sleep and if you don't have like the right food in your body, like that workout will suck.
Yeah.
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 So I am not a great fall asleeper. I can stay asleep. Do you, do you have any sleep habits? Because you can fall asleep like on a chair.
Yes. I
Like
love sleep. I love sleep, as you can tell. Sometimes when Shannon and I have traveled before many times, she is an early riser too. And so I would be like, please wake me up in the morning because I will sleep through the things. And I am one of those people that will set like three alarms, as
Mhm.
Shannon knows,
I
and they
know.
all go off and
Mhm.
they're all snoozed. I am that person.
It's true, guys. It's true.
And so I'm not ashamed of it. I'm going to own it and it's okay. But so sleep habits, though, how do I fall asleep? I think it's interesting. Like, so I recently got these So I recently got these like sleep buds, and they're like the Bose sleep buds. I think that's what they're
Mhm.
called, where like you can't listen to anything, you can't listen to like music, anything. They sleep. It's specific for just like noise. It's like just like static noise. And so I listen to like raindrops or sometimes like 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 spa music, I guess is what I would call it. And so those are really helpful, and they really block out like just any noise
Yeah.
around, which is helpful. I definitely take like magnesium at night, which is I think helpful. It's like this thing called Calm,
Mhm.
and I think it just really helps relax me. I think a lot of times my brain has a hard time shutting off
Yeah.
because I'm always thinking about work. And so when I have like a glass of magnesium at night, it just really helps me just like slowly shut down. And it's just like, I guess it's magnesium, so it's not bad for you.
Mhm.
and and then let's see, I always like, I think if I do not get my full 8 hours of sleep, I am a grumpy person throughout the day. So it's like I am one of those people that cannot operate with less than 8 hours,
Mhm.
and I just always try to make it a conscious effort to get my full 8 hours.
Yeah. Would you ever invest in some like med tech, like the Aura Ring, to like track your sleep habits?
Yeah. So like I know a lot of people have those rings. I
Mhm.
would totally do that. Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think just understanding your sleep cycle
Mhm.
is so important. I also have this app that I used to use. I don't really use it. I haven't been using it recently, where like you can set an alarm
Mhm.
and it tracks like when you're in deep sleep and when you're
Mhm.
not. And so the alarm is set to a range. So instead of waking you up in deep sleep, because I
Yeah.
think when you are woken up in deep sleep, you're groggy throughout the
Yeah.
day. I don't know
Jar
if this is scientifically proven or what, but like, so, take it for what it's worth. But apparently, when you're not in deep sleep and then you're woken up while you're not in deep sleep, you're like, it's just an easier wake up. And so that proved to work for me.
Yeah.
And so I really miss using that app. I don't use it. I haven't been using it, and I should start introducing it again. But it was really awesome when I was using that.
That sounds so much more soothing than like waking up to a like a beeping alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's nice. Yeah. I did the sleep or one of the sleep apps on the watch for a while, but then I got like so into it, like too into it, where because it gave you an emoji based on how you slept. And I was like, I thought I slept great, but it's like someone like with a grumpy face. And I was like, no, like, but I think it was helpful in like knowing like the nights where I'd have like 2 glasses of wine.
Yeah.
I thought that relaxed me and put me to sleep. But no, that is like the polar opposite of it. It would like I would never get into like a deep sleep and like it'd be like light sleep the whole way. And like that's not a restorative sleep, even if it's like an 8 hour sleep.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Like I do remember kind of tracking like if I had a glass or two of wine,
Mhm.
what was my sleep quality like? And it was always very low. It was
Right?
definitely on the 60%. This was like a percentage
Mm,
versus when I was not consuming, alcohol, it was like over 80%. And so it was just really interesting to kind of see based on what you're consuming and eating throughout the day and the impact it has on your sleep quality.
yeah.
Like, whoa, it was so mind-blowing.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And I think there's like all the little things we don't really think of like eating like a heavy, heavy meal so close to bedtime. Like that can throw off the sleep cycle too.
Yeah.
All that because I don't I try a bedtime routine. I should try I have Calm at home. I actually should try doing that at night. That's good quick hot tip for everybody listening
Yeah.
about the magnesium because it
It
yeah.
also has a positive side effect too. And not that
Okay.
I want to talk about, this on the podcast, but for those of you who are not regular in the morning, it really helps, you know,
It move things along.
it moves things along. It's a
All
really nice side effect.
which is very it's very healthful. It's you got to detox your body somehow. And if you can help your body do it while you sleep, that's even better.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
better. More hot tips. Um, okay, I have a question about traveling. So like we've talked a lot about like at home and like, everything's set up at
I just
home.
spilled all over myself. Sorry.
No.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
I spill all the time. So like when you're on the road, like traveling for fun, traveling for work, like how do you sort of keep this up? Like how like do you bring like calm supplements or do you travel with a sleep mask and like how do you sort of like keep up this like wellness, like you have a great wellness routine. Like how do you keep this up when you are on the go?
Yeah, it took me a while, I think, to kind of nail it down. But I do travel with calm in my, and it's just a funny story actually. I do travel with calm. I put it in a Ziploc bag. So if everybody knows, you can have it in liquid form or you can also have it in powder form. And it's a white powder. And so
Oh no.
sometimes I put it in a Ziploc bag, which guess what? When you don't check a bag and it gets searched by TSA, it can cause eyebrows to raise. And so that's been a fun journey. And and even recently, when I was returning from Mexico City, my bag got searched and I had it in a little plastic
Oh
container because,
no.
I like to seal it properly. And they were like, what is this? And I was like, and I said it in Spanish. I was like, es magnesio, like it's magnesium. And the guy was like, I don't know. I don't know. This looks suspect. And I was traveling with my nephew. And my nephew's like, "Why do you travel with this stuff, Angie?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Because it helps me sleep." But anyway, that's aside. Sorry.
Anyway, the other side story is I've also traveled with Angie and she's traveled with her own sticks of butter.
Yes, it's true.
But I've
Oh
also made her
gosh,
travel with a blender. So,
this is true. She has this. We all have our quirks. And so, yes, so I travel with magnesium. I also travel. So I started, well, maybe it was after you introduced me to it, Shannon, with like, because sometimes when you travel, you don't get like, your serving of veggies or right. So like sweet or it's athletic greens
mhm.
is something that I ordered it in like travel packs, and so that was really nice just to pack and also just like have because a lot of times when you're traveling, especially for work, sometimes like you're very limited on even just getting your hand on a fruit or vegetable, and so having that handy has been great. And yeah, I wasn't a user of sleep masks, but I started using them. It's like the ones that actually like cup over your eyes so you can actually blink and move. And then I have one that's like beaded. And so it's really nice because it rests on my face nicely. And so I do feel like when I travel, I get a good night's sleep. Yeah, I think those are probably it. And so I just always try to be really good about like getting to bed at a decent time, which sometimes is hard.
Yeah. One thing that you brought on a trip one time, which I thought it was insane because I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't, and then I saw you use them and I got them and they're a great thing to like, you can throw in a bag. It takes up no space. Those like sliders.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they look like just like discs, but on any sort of like think of like a hotel room surface, like the carpeting is light, so they just slide. And like the ab workout you get from those is like it's so sore. It's so sore. You could do kind of do like squats too. Like those are really great.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. I travel with like my sliders, which I don't really use at home because I have other methods of working out. But sliders are very compact. Bands too, like the exercise bands, the ones that they have the two handles, or just the essentially round ones that you kind of put. I mean, they're great. They're very small and they don't take up a lot of space. And it's hard, right? Because sometimes I remember, I remember going to Las Vegas for work. This was when I
Mhm.
was at Microsoft. It was like a big conference, and I was super ambitious, and I packed workout clothes, and it was like, I'm going to get a workout in. And so by the time, first of all, I couldn't find the gym because, like,
Mhm.
I don't know, I think they hide it somewhere in the basement in Las
Yeah.
Vegas because they don't want anyone going to the gym. And so
Mhm.
I feel like by the time it probably took me 45 minutes to locate the gym and get to it from my room. By that time, I was like, I have no time to work out. And then
Mhm.
I need another 45 minutes to get back. And so, like,
Yeah.
that was my workout. And so, that sometimes isn't helpful. And so if you can just work out in your room, I think that's just, packing those things that just don't take up a lot of space
Mhm.
is helpful because you can just like knock it out really quickly.
Totally, totally. Yeah, and I think you like throughout our conversation you brought up like really important points. Like your health and wellness is totally individual. It's like what works for you, like what life stage, what season of life you're in, like where you're at in the world, like if you're traveling, if you're on the go, and then like it doesn't have to be perfect. Like it still
Yeah.
works if it's not like I don't like you can miss. You can indulge for a couple meals in a row. Like you can be you and like still manage to like have this focus on health and wellness in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that it's not a one size fits all, and
Mhm.
it's just what works for you. And, it's all kind of trial and error, right? Like it's what works for you, what works for you, Shannon. Sometimes, and most times probably doesn't work for me. And what works for me probably doesn't work for you. And vice, and I think that should apply to everyone.
For sure. For sure. So you talked about future goals, like you want to have yoga back in your life. Is there anything else like you are like in 2023, like this is
Yeah.
what we're gonna do?
Yes. In 2023, you and I are going to run another half marathon together. That
That's
is a goal. So that I'm transferring onto you. So it is now your goal too.
I worked out on the bike yesterday for 20 minutes and I was like heaving. Um, so it's definitely gonna happen. Just I need a jacket. I need a jacket to run outside so I'm not a wimp about it, and then I'll start training.
We'll do it. We're going to do it. I am so excited because when I was in Mexico City, there was a half marathon going on, and I was like, I wish I would have known because I would have done it. Although I probably need to really train for that one given the altitude.
Yeah. Or you
But,
could have just popped in.
right?
Yeah, just crashed it. Okay, cool. Well, I have one last question for you.
Let's do
And
it.
and a question that I ask everybody who comes on the podcast. So, you actually know Patty, my college roommate. We would always
Yes.
talk about these conversations of, "If I had a button, it would do this." But then Amazon definitely created the buttons where you could press and things would happen. But but we're not talking about getting tied or getting, bounty delivered here. It's like if you had a button in your life, you'd press it anytime and this would happen, or this would be done for you, or this would, some dream would come true. Whatever it is, what would it be for you?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I, I can, so it's at my disposal, this
Mhm.
button, right? Okay.
Anytime.
And it's something that if I push this button, it's the same thing would happen over and over again.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, let's see. I okay, so I think because I'm really busy during the day
Mhm.
and in meetings, like back to back meetings, and especially right now that I'm working from home because I don't really go into the office as often as I would like to. Putting together like a healthy lunch
Mhm.
is like always takes like, oh, what am I going to put together today? And so just pushing the button and just like if I push the button, like magically like a healthy meal shows up, Like that would be great. And not the same meal every day because that would be boring.
Right.
But definitely like something different. Yes. That's the button I would want.
Well,
Or maybe it's also like this button that I have right now, which is like my little badass button that I push all the time, which I have a button already.
you do have that button, and it's true, and it's telling you the truth. Well, in a couple of months, my course is coming out, and it's all about eating for energy. And I've got some tips and tricks in there that will help you with
Perfect.
your button. So I might be bringing your button to life. So I
Yay.
guess I might owe you some royalties or something because you have the button. Um, but anyway, this has been so much fun, and I think we could keep talking and talking for much longer and planning a lot more trips. But I know you have your busy job to get back to, and I want you to have some lunch today because it is almost lunchtime. So I'm giving you like a button push, and then hopefully Fadi has a beautiful spread prepared right outside the door.
Yeah, he just left and he's going to get our lunch. So I think I ordered something healthy. So he should be back soon with lunch. So that's my current button right now.
Nice, nice, nice. The Fadi button. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you. Mwah. Big hugs to you.
Oh, I missed you. This is incredible. Thank you for having me. I feel so lucky and fortunate to be a guest on your podcast.
Oh my gosh, just thrilled to have you. Okay, all right. Thank you, Angie.